So Caitlin Clark has helped the Indiana Fever do something they haven't accomplished in 189 games, and that's get to a winning record. When the season first started, it was a rough patch for the Fever. They started 1-8, and now here they are at 17-16. That makes them 16-8 in the last 24 games. So if you want to look at this team now, they're a top 4 seed in the WNBA, which is incredible to even say. With all that being said, the biggest difference between early on this season and now is they figure things out. Their chemistry is better. You see how Kelsey Mitchell is playing better off the ball with Caitlin Clark. She's cutting more. She's looking for opportunities to score without having to need the ball in her hands all the time, which I think has been critical for the Indiana Fever's offense. It's unlocked some things for the Fever. And Leah Boston has been a great teammate all year long. She's been consistent alongside Caitlin Clark. I know she has 7 points in back-to-back games, but just her impact out there is something you can't match. And she's a threat out there. You can't just leave her on an island. She'll cut to the basket for pick-and-roll action. She'll hit the mid-range shot. And she's a great teammate next to Caitlin Clark. And just seeing how Mitchell has adapted her game, it has gotten better next to Clark. Even Lexi Hall has been a reliable third or fourth option. If Boston's struggling, Hall picks up the slack. If Mitchell's struggling, she helps out. That has been big for the Fever. Dantis is hitting shots. I mean, it's been crazy. She's hitting her threes and also getting some action inside. And then you look at Nalissa Smith and her game against the Sky. She was unbelievable in that third quarter, just making some timely baskets and keeping things at a distance between the Fever and the Sky. So a lot of them are contributing, and you're seeing the Fever turn the corner. Now, where would I have them in my contender list? I have them right below. That's not being disrespectful. I just think the Lynx, the Liberty, the Aces, and the Sun are still better at this moment because of just experience, and I don't want to just dismiss what they've accomplished. But the Fever are going to be a problem in the playoffs because if they keep this pace up and this level of play, it's going to be hard to beat them. Now, they got some interesting games coming up. They got the Sparks on Wednesday. They should win that game. They got the Lynx coming to their building on Friday. And then next week, they got back-to-back games against the Aces next Wednesday and Friday. So those are some games where if they can win them all, then the conversation about them being contenders right now is only going to be elevated even more. But just to look at the Fever season overall, it's been a huge success. It started really badly. And to see the chemistry being built between Boston, Mitchell, Clark, Lexi Hall, and Dantis, and Alyssa Smith, they're building a core foundation for this roster. And when you're looking at just weaknesses on this team, one of the things that stands out is Erica Wheeler. You know, when she comes in, she's more of a scorer. She's not a natural point guard. And I think they need a backup point guard this offseason. It would really help just take the pressure off Clark to play more minutes. Another thing they need is more athletic wings, in my opinion. I think Satu would be perfect for the Fever because she's really good at scoring, playing defense, and she's long and athletic. And that's what the Fever need right now. I know Lexi Hall has filled that role really nicely, but another wing would be big for the Fever. And just looking at the past 2 games for Caitlin Clark, she had 31 points, 12 assists, 3 turnovers. You love seeing that number. 5 of 9 from 3. You love seeing the 3-point shots going more consistently. The next game against the Wings, and that was a tough game, by the way. That game was rough. Wasn't easy, but they pulled it out. 28 points, 12 assists. She did have 7 turnovers, 5 or 11 from 3. What I like, though, is she's hitting more 3-point shots, which means her shot is slowly coming back. And if she's hitting her 3, that just makes the Fever more dangerous and harder to guard out there. And the pace they're playing with, teams are having trouble keeping up. So when they're pushing the ball, they're playing in transition, people can't keep up with them. And it's fun to watch because Caitlin Clark is center team that's up for success. I've seen plays where Mitchell is cutting in transition and getting easy layups. Boston has played her role nicely. Lexi Hall is also shooting the 3 better since coming back from the Olympic break, which is another positive sign for the Fever. And if you're getting contributions from Dantis and Alyssa Smith, all of a sudden you got some pieces here that you can use for the playoffs. I still think they're a little bit thin on the bench, but they're going to be fun to watch, and they're not going to be easy to deal with in the playoffs. If they can get out of the first round and just make it interesting, that would be awesome to see. I don't know if they can do that, but you know, I'm not going to just count them out and act like they can't win a first-round playoff series. I'm not going to say that. It just depends on the matchup. If they play a team like the Sun, that's going to be a dogfight, but I think they could find a way to win. If they play the Liberty, I think the Liberty will sweep them. If they play the Aces, that is going to be an interesting matchup, but it's contingent on next week's matchups because obviously the Fever are a different team right now. If the Aces come out next week and blow them out or just control the game, then my opinion will change. But as of right now, it's up in the air. I need to see those two games play out so I can make a better judgment call. But if the Aces play them today, I think the Aces will probably sweep them, or maybe they'll get a game. But if they play a team like the Minnesota Lynx, who knows? Because obviously she's going to be fired up and motivated by playing against Shara Reeve. Now it will be an interesting narrative to watch. But I think the Lynx will pull it out. You just never know, though, because I think the first round is a best of 3. I don't know if the second round is. I know in the finals is best of 5. But I like what the Fever are doing here. I like the direction they're heading. And Caitlin Clark getting the ball more often in her hands sets everybody else up for success. And I just want to touch on Kelsey Mitchell real quick because she deserves a ton of credit for adapting her game to Caitlin Clark. And you just look at the three-point shooting, 71% against the Wings, 60% against the Sky, 57% against the Sun, 30%, 20%, had a couple rough games, 62% and 46%. Mitchell is shooting the ball more consistently and also generating easier baskets because she is playing off the ball more often instead of playing isolation basketball. And that's a huge thing because going forward, if Caitlin Clark is running this offense and they're allowing her to cook and generate easy baskets, then it's going to open up the offense for the Fever, especially in the playoffs. And if you got Kelsey Mitchell putting up 25 points a night and Clark's giving you 28 to 30, and if Aaliyah Boston gets going, where she's getting her typical 15 to 20 points a night, that big three is going to be scary and hard to beat. But yeah, I just want to point out that Kelsey Mitchell has been balling. I think the Fever need to re-sign her because what she's done after the All-Star break is something we need to give credit and praise for because early on she was struggling, but she's made the adjustments. And look at where the Fever are now. They're just hard to guard and they're exciting to watch. Just looking at the schedule going forward, they got the Sparks coming up. That should be a win. And then they got the Lynx on Friday. That will be a revenge game, but Collier is definitely going to have something to say. And you got the Atlanta Dream. I don't think that's going to be an easy matchup because the Dream are fighting for a playoff spot. And then you got the Aces in back-to-back games next Wednesday and Friday. That is going to be some fun basketball, and a lot of people are going to be tuning in my opinion. I think a lot of people are going to watch those games because A'ja Wilson is going to try to just cement her MVP even more. She had, I think, 42 and 17 yesterday on 70% shooting. She was phenomenal. And I think if you're going to Indiana, people are going to be tuning in on that Wednesday and Friday game. Shout out to WNBA for not marketing those games on a Saturday or Sunday because of football season. So I think they'll get a good turnout for fans and also viewership. And just watching Clark versus A'ja Wilson, that's going to be fun basketball. And those are big games for the Fever as well because if they're trying to, move up in the playoff standings or hold that 6th seed, those are some big games. If they get to, let's just say they win all these games coming up, man, the MVP conversations are going to be nuts. I think A'ja Wilson is going to win it regardless, but it's going to be fun to just entertain. And to see what the Fever have done, this is a huge success. No matter what happens from here on out, the fact they're at 17 and 16 after a rough start, and you're seeing the chemistry being built between Boston, Mitchell, and Clark, the future is really bright for the Fever. They're only a couple pieces away from being a championship contender. That's how good they are. And if they get those pieces like another wing and a backup point guard, they are going to be very hard to stop next season. And for the Fever, you just got to keep hooping. Play in transition. Don't give up big leads. I know Chrissy Sides has a habit of keeping the wrong players in and the other team goes on a run. So you got to tighten up those rotations. But the Fever are balling. I mean, Mitchell has been fantastic. That duo between Clark and Mitchell is just scary to watch because they're just building this chemistry after the All-Star break. Imagine where they might be next season. Yikes. Scary time in the WNBA. But yeah, Fever are rolling. I think they're going to keep rolling. I know they got the Lynx on Friday. I think they will win both these games this week. And the Dream will be tough, but I think they'll pull that out. I'm excited for the Aces games because back-to-back in Indiana, that's going to be some fun basketball to watch. And I hope it turns out to be really close and really tight and we get some good games. Because the WNBA is on the come-up. And as long as they market their players and continue to let Caitlin Clark shine then that only benefits players like Asia Wilson, Fee Collier, Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, and so forth. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Love to hear your thoughts on the Fever's success and their turnaround this season and what Caitlin Clark has brought to the game. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.